back, everybody. On this episode, I'm going to be installing the governor and the fan shaft and the front water pipe. And I've got the governor on my lap right here. And I rebuilt this a couple years ago in preparations for this project. So I don't have any video of me rebuilding this, but it's got new helical gears in it, a new gear set, and a new pinion on the fan shaft, and new sleeve, and a new thrust bearing, and new arms. And this case is actually a new old stock case too, and gears and the weights. So needs a little oil put to it. But yeah, that slide in there where the governor linkage goes to the carburetor, that's all brand new and tight like they were when they were new. With a little bit of oil, that'll slide really nicely. So yeah, all that's new, a new shaft. So I'm going to move over to the tractor, and the first order of business is I got to put on the idler gear that runs the governor off the crankshaft. So we'll set up over there and we'll show you how to do it. Okay, we're back to the case, and we're looking at inside the crankcase, and this is a new gear and new bushing, and that's got to go down in here with a new bolt through it. I think I will turn the flywheel a little bit, get that rod, give me some more room. But there's only one way that can go in. This side's machined here. That's the side that goes into the case that rubs on there. And then there's a notch in there that so it seats up in there like that. You can see that. There's a little dowel in there that seats into a keyway, so the shaft can't turn. But this little oil cup has got to be up if you can't see back in there for sure. So keeping that up, and the machine surface towards the crankcase side. Check the book first before I go any further. So I checked the parts book, and there was a washer that's supposed to go in behind there, a thrush washer, and it said it was a D490R, and I went in my washer collection, and lo and behold, I had a brand new one. I actually had a couple new ones. So it's a special washer that has a notch in it for that dowel behind that bolt to go into. So we'll pull that back off. And that goes right in there into that dowel, that notch. I'm going to put a little sealer in that hole because there's nothing in there that can keep the oil from coming out. So smear a little bit of that in there and make sure you got it all seated in there correctly. The washer's got to be in the notch of that dowel, and the oil cup's got to be up. There's no timing for that gear because there's no timing until you get to the magneto over here, and then there's an adjustable disc on the end where the magneto couples up to the governor. So you make your adjustment there for the spark. And then the next order of business, and we'll put the governor on. Okay, I'm ready to put the governor case on. First of all, I gotta stick the water control rod through the case while I got everything open and I can get it fed through. This is a new old stock rod that I bought just a couple months ago. And I'll have to bend the handle on it back here after I hook it up to the carburetor, but it's still got the tags on it. I think what I'm going to do with all the tags is maybe stick them in the glove box when I get done. So I've got the gasket on with some sealer on it. This one illustrates pretty close to what I usually try to do. I try not to put material right up to the edge of the gasket, so when I tighten everything down, it won't squirt out a lot of gasket sealer around the edge. There's no timing to this governor case. You can just put it on. Just make sure you mesh it into that idler gear. And then of course over here you can adjust your disc when you're mounting up your magneto. I put a little bit of sealer down on the threads of those holes too. It won't leak out of the bolt threads. So make sure you got all the gears meshed before you tighten it down so you don't break something. Okay, then the next item I'm going to install is the manifold, because once I put the fan shaft and the water pipe in, sometimes you can't get that manifold on and off, so that's got to go on first. When I was cleaning up my parts, and after I'd laid them all out, I realized when I was cleaning this up that one of the ears was broke off, so I had to find another one and grind an ear off and weld that on there. So even if it's a new part, you might have to fix. So here's a new old stock manifold gasket. And then these underneath here have to be turned down as it goes on, because it's a tight fit. There's always one that goes on hard the whole way. Make sure you draw those down all together so you don't have something that's binding up underneath this casting for sure. Okay, now we'll work on getting the water pipe on. This was kind of a find, this new old stock water pipe. I bought that on eBay years ago. So I'm going to put the new fan shaft, stick it in there, set it up here. And there's already a felt seal in the new old stock water pipe. So I just have to push the fan shaft through there and then get a gasket for the water pipe. We're just going to test fit this all right now. Upside down for one thing. For the ones that know, this isn't the correct style of rear bearing housing, but I didn't have a new old stock earlier version, so I'm going to use the next version. So there's a cup in there. It says top on there, so you want to put that in on the top because that catches the oil. Not sure that's going to go in there. There's a gasket and shims that go in here, so you get your right backlash with your fan gears. So right now it's pretty tight. I've got probably, I don't know, 20 thousandths in there, 25 thousandths. This is the only way I know how to get the right clearance on the fan shaft, is to test fit it on the tractor. So I've got one regular gasket, the 297R, and then I've got some shim gaskets. And I'll probably put like 2 of them in there maybe. On a new installation, it might need more than that. And they're not the same all the way around. The holes are not equidistant around there, so that makes it a little challenging. I might have to soak them a little bit. They're a little tight going on there. I have to admit, I took this back off the governor housing to oil all the mechanisms in there with my oil can a little bit, oil the bearings and the gears and the thrust bearing on here, and oil this. And now I've put the sealer on the gasket and ready to put the water pipe on. And I've put all the gaskets in that I have for the fan shaft. And I think it's going to be close. I've got 2 of the 297Rs, and I got 7 of the 509Rs that are the shim gaskets. And I got 1 regular gasket on each side of those. And also the holes are equidistant around. You don't have to pay attention to getting them lined up because the holes are all the same all the way around. So with everything being new, it does pretty much require that you have quite a few shim gaskets in there. Otherwise your fan gears are gonna run too tight. Okay, make sure you have your oil cup to the top, and I'm gonna put some in there. I think I'll put a little bit around the threads too of those. I didn't put any sealer on all those gaskets. If I have to come back and change those a little bit, I'll be able to. If I glue them all together with the sealer, down the road, if you want to take some out to take up the backlash on the gears, you won't be able to. So I'm leaving the sealer off of the gaskets. I would say there's just a freckle of backlash in there. Okay, now we'll tighten down the water pipe. Okay, now I believe we are ready to put the fan on. The first thing in there is the fan bearing. This is a JD 7658. And I've had it out of there and I've cleaned it up, so it's not coming out of the box exactly all shined up like that. But that's all new old stock. I'm going to put some grease, packet full of grease. There is a grease cup to grease this. The earlier ones had the cup coming out of here, and there was actually a grease cup that you flipped the lid open and you oiled it. And then it went to an actual grease cup that you turned the cup off, filled the cup full of grease, and then screwed it back on and pushed the grease into the bearing housing. And this is the latest of the 2-bolt water pipes, where it had a spot over here next to the muffler. And I don't know why they went over here next to the muffler later on. Same part number on the casting. It might be a little tight to get a grease cup in there. Maybe you could get one in there. But you can at least get a grease zerk in there. And then I get a couple bolts. And then this bushing goes in there. That's a D246R. And it's got a beveled edge on one side, so I suspect you put it on like this so the beveled edge is out, so when you push on your felt seal, you can get it over that bushing. But this is still tagged with the leather tag that they used at one point, and that's a AD221R. And then I made myself a gasket too. The book doesn't say that there's a gasket, but I wanted to put a gasket in there so maybe it didn't leak so much. As you can see, you need all the help from that bevel on that bushing to get that on there. Kind of getting it on crooked, that's why. Okay, now we're getting close. I think I'll put the part number up. The bolt started, and we're still quite a bit of ways. Now the next thing that goes on is a 5/8 washer, and then the spring goes up against that and holds it on the back side. Later down the road, they made a disc that went on there that covered up the front end. And this is a D378R. A couple new fan discs, and then the aluminum pieces. That's AD1872R, straight out of the box. Got a cotter key there, and I think that's a later number. It was like a 1872R or something like that. But I can see that's going to be too long. So I'm going to have to make one out of some stock. So that goes on. That goes on. Okay. All right, I'm going to have to cut a keyway and come back in a little bit. Okay, I'm ready to put the fan on. So I got the keyway in there. That's supposed to be like a 400R, but I don't have one of those. And then the spring and the inside clutch shiv. And then the new old stock fan, it's actually yellow on the inside. Got to put a clutch disc in there. Get the paint all out of it so it'll go around. Make sure the outside one will go in there. Just a little tight. Okay, got that so it'll make sure that goes in there. Okay, and I think we're ready to go together here. Line up everything. I'm going to put a little washer on there because a lot of times I see those nuts, they work back into that pot metal. And I'm not sure I'm a fan of that. So I found a little washer to go in there. Get it all freed up. Okay. I'm thinking about not having any of the cotter keys stick out in front to get into the radiator. It seems like it's inevitable that they get into the radiator. So I'm going to fold them both back, and there we go. The fan has been installed. The water pipe's on. The governor's installed. That'll be it for this episode. If you want to keep watching or go back and watch some of my old videos, you can go to my YouTube channel, and we'll see you down the road.